Hey, welcome to the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute with your host, the alchemist of Indiana's Black Forest, Alan Bishop. Hey, this channel is all about home distilling and legal distilling. If you've got questions, reach out to us in the comments below, social media, or via bishopshomegrown@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out thealchemistcabinet.com. Justin, God. All right, hey guys, back again with, I don't know, how many we got today?
I can't count.
4?
5.
Well, 2 of them are the same thing.
4.
Yes. So back with the we're gonna try to do this one fairly quick because we got food coming, and we just went for an epic fucking hike that went way longer than anticipated. So we're both sort of fucking wore out at this point. So this is we're gonna aim for 4 and 20.
We can do that.
I think we can do that. 4 and 20. So. As if you didn't know, Alan Bishop with One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, Justin Whaley, of course, with the Still Learning podcast, which I'm pretty sure he should just rename at this point to the I'm potentially still recording podcast. When is that next episode coming, buddy?
As soon as we get this done.
Oh, as soon as this episode comes out. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So, as always, filming for YouTube as well as recording audio for Justin's podcast. So, today we've got something really cool. So Jesse Wilson from the Still It channel got permission from, I don't even know if I've told you this or not, but he had to actually get permission from the government, from the New Zealand government, in order to send samples out to professionals in the distilled spirits industry to get an idea of whether or not he was on the right track with his distillations and things like that for his Still It channel. So this is literally coming to us as 2 distillers in the United States at Spirits of French Lick to give feedback on these spirits. Otherwise, we would never be able to get a hold of these spirits and put them to use as we are here today. So super excited to have Jesse's stuff. These samples came when he and I were working on the Absinthe project, which we're still working on. And he sent me an Absinthe sample, but he also sent me a number of other things. And I'll let Justin explain what we have over here today.
So the first one we're going to try is the standard peat. And I don't know much anything else about other than I know he generally runs everything on an air still unless it was something else he'd done.
I think these are more like legit samples from his actual distilling equipment, like his real distilling equipment, because he has several different pieces of equipment that he's featured on the channel. And I remember seeing the videos where he did these. I can't remember where he got the peat from, but it's either like a Simpson's peated or just a standard Scotch peat. He may have even malted and smoked that himself. I can't remember. But I do remember seeing the video where he did that. And then also the New Zealand peat, which we'll do next, which should be interesting because I know that there's a huge difference between, for example, Scottish peats that you see in Scotch single malt whiskey and the Indiana peat that we get from Northern Indiana that we use for our Whiskey Witch product. The Indiana peat is much more floral. It's not nearly as noticeable off of the still when you first distill it. It's not nearly as phenolic as Scottish peat, and it's entirely different because it's made up of a different type of substrate than what Scottish peat is. The Indiana peat we have is actually made up of leaves from deciduous trees, is what it's made out of. So it's going to have a different flavor profile than what they would in Scotland, and I presume that whatever the New Zealand peat is made out of is something entirely different than what you would have in Scotland as well. So this, I would suspect, before I even put my nose to it, that it's going to have that sort of standard sort of Scottish peated phenolic, heavier character to it. And I know Jesse likes that sort of heavier, grungier sort of thing. It's kind of interesting because Jesse and I are the exact opposite. So I like floral, I like fruity, I like round, fatty spirits, but I like earthy things, I like heavier things. And the exceptions are that I do love Lafroig, obviously, and some of those heavier peated scotches. But typically in most distillations, Jesse and I are complete opposite ends of the spectrum. So
this will be interesting then.
Yeah. There's not as much peat on the nose as I would have expected from a standard peat offering, but that's not a bad thing at all.
I get first thing on the nose. I get apricot.
Yeah, I was thinking fruit, and my brain, and maybe because of the experiment we did earlier, but my brain was picking up almost like a little strawberry seed sort of characteristic. And again, that kind of phenolic, darker fruit, or maybe even like blood plum.
I don't know what blood plum is, but no,
Never had a blood plum?
I have not.
You gotta. I guess they still sell them there, but you used to be able to buy them at the JC store. I love them. I'll eat them right out of the hand, just like an apple.
I love plums. So that'd be...
Yeah, they're a firm flesh Asian style plum, and they're blood red all the way through. They're really good.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, mostly getting that fruit characteristic off the nose, though.
Woo! That was hidden.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, there's that Lafroig characteristic for sure is there on the backbone of that.
Yeah.
And it is very, very pronounced. Very pronounced.
So, first sip, as soon as it hits on the tip of the tongue, it's smoke, campfire, but it's also a little bit phenolic. But then, like you said, that backbone, that is...
You know, it could be, too, because we were down in the basement working on some fermentation projects and running propane. Our noses might have been blind to the smoke that's on that, because now coming back to the glass, too, I get a lot more of that smoky character.
You almost needed to break that barrier.
Right. And that, I don't think he wrote on the bottles what the proof are, or is for each of them, and he didn't put it in the message, so we'll have to ask him at some point. But for those of you who aren't familiar with Still It, and I suspect that most of you are, because the vast majority of people that are on my YouTube channel, the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, were actually sent over by Jesse. If you're not familiar with Still It, you definitely need to check it out. Jesse's in New Zealand, where distilling at home is completely legal. He does some really cool stuff, really in-depth experiments. I think in my opinion, he doesn't get enough feedback on his production value for his videos.
Oh,
his
100%.
videos are fucking excellent. I'm not going to put that kind of work into a video. I'll tell you
he,
right now.
He puts crazy amount of work, and then when we were at work the other day watching this stuff, it was just funny to see. He would do something and he'd be like, I have an idea, and then midway through that idea he's like, shit. But he puts so much work into everything he does.
He also has shorter videos that he calls meme spirits, that he does distill on like an air still, and it'll be like using various different types of candy or whatever to distill through an air still, just to see how it would turn out and get some idea of what it would do. And a lot of those are a lot of fun, and I even joked with him on his podcast that, you know, there's a lot of distillers in the industry that watch what he does. He doesn't realize that in the legal industry there are a ton of distillers who watch his videos at lunchtime and really enjoy them. But I joked with him, since we were talking about absinthe, he should do a meme spirits video distilling black jelly beans.
I'd be
kind of a poor man's absinthe.
100% behind that. Second sip, that smoke's still there, but if you can get past that, if you can imagine like a candied pear without the sweetness, because it has that cooked down pear thing.
Yeah, or even a little green apple, which is common in malt whiskey as well.
Yeah.
The mouthfeel is fantastic on this.
A good go between those two, a quince. That bitter quince thing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's nothing to be ashamed of with this one. This is damn good. I'd like to see what that did with some heavy aging to it, just out of curiosity.
Do you know if he aged that at all? Because it's got a tinge to it.
It looks like it's got a little wood to it, maybe some used oak. It's hard for me to tell because I just had cataract surgery, and the lighting in this room also kind of sucks. So, but it does look like it does have some yellow coloration to it. I think this could hold up to some heavy duty aging, and I honestly think it could hold up to new oak.
Oh yeah,
truthfully, new number 2 or number 3 char.
Or if you don't need the crazy char on, if he's making really really clean cuts, do just a heavy toast. See what that does.
Yeah, no, that is fucking excellent, man. Great job, Jesse. I'm really glad you sent this one, and we got a chance to check it out and see what it's doing. And yeah, I'm gonna finish that one for sure. It is oily. It's viscous for sure,
and it hangs
on the mouthfeel. And I suspect because Jesse's into those heavier, grungier flavors, I know that he dives into his tails a little further in a lot of his distillations than what I typically do. And I suspect that that's where a lot of that is coming from. But I'm gonna have to go back and watch that video too and find out where he sourced that malt from, and also what yeast he was using on this. Yeah,
I would be interested to see what yeast, because the fruit, and what I like about that is after everything is gone, the smoke's gone, every exhale, that fruit gets more prominent.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Man, and it's an honor just to get a chance to try Jesse's stuff, because most people, that follow him, he's got a ton of followers, they're not really getting the chance to try his stuff because he doesn't have a commercial distillery or an outlet. But I hope in time that he gets to that point, because he's got a ton of followers all over the world, and I think they would support basically anything that he did, one way, shape, form, or the other. So hopefully he can get to that point. And if all of his distillations reflect this sort of experience, he's doing a hell of a job.
Absolutely. We've been making a flight.
Yes, absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to cut real quick, and we will come back with another segment with another one of Jesse's spirits. Round 2, fight.
Drink.
I've always wanted to do the Mortal Kombat thing on something, so that worked out okay.
Yeah, of course.
So, what we got here?
So this is the New Zealand peat.
Whoa, that is an entirely different thing. I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound offensive to some people, but it is not offensive at all to me, because I love it. There is like a blue cheese note.
It's funky
on that.
Wow. Funky cheese, and it's almost, you can almost smell the salinity of it. And then, and I know this, or I don't know, I don't know what type of smoke was used on this
or even like Parmesan cheese kind of thing going on there.
But the smoke that's there is like almost like a really light mesquite smoke is what it reminds me of. And that may be the salinity thing, because mesquite and hickory both are like a salty or a seasoned smoke to me.
Wow. Yeah, that is really, really special on the nose. There's something else I'm picking up there. There's a little bit of like there's a baking spice. I want to say something like a light nutmeg or something, but there's also like there's a sweetness, there's a roundness to it, which is I don't know what the fuck they call them. You know those like just the sugar pies, like the sugar cream pie things?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You don't like those?
No.
What?
No, I don't. I don't know why it tastes like like, if you have sugar in a container too long, it goes stale.
See, I love that.
That's what that reminds me of. And
interesting.
Not this, the sugar pies.
Yeah.
And the palate matches the nose.
Yeah, it does. I still go back to the sugar pie thing, or even like coconut cream pie.
Yeah.
That it has that sort of characteristic. It also has that mouthfeel. This has better mouthfeel than the other one did.
Yeah. That is like, it's fatty.
Yes.
Like you could almost chew that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had like fermented eggs, to where you ferment the yolks and use them on top of like spaghetti and stuff?
No, because I'm not a disgusting person, Justin.
Oh, but you eat sugar cream pies.
Yes.
No, so you take egg yolks and set them in salt and dry them out and ferment them, and you grate it over like pasta, almost like Parmesan cheese. And that funky, fatty thing, like there's no fruit to this with me, which... No, for sure. This is definitely like, I agree. It's that fatty, rounded, fucking creamy, and that mouthfeel, it's just like a oil slick. I mean, it just keeps going and going. Like it coats your mouth. I don't know that I've ever had a whiskey that coats my mouth the way that does. Not that heavily. We may have fucked up. We maybe should have done these ones last.
I know. There's also a little bit of, I'm trying to think of the way to say this. There's a term that they use in brandy, especially older brandies, but you can achieve this in younger spirits too, which is related to the word rancid. It's rancio, and it's like this idea of not something being spoiled, but something having those fatty sort of compounds, like those, like a protein breakdown sort of characteristic to it. And this definitely has that for sure. Sometimes it can come across like decaying leaves, which would make sense depending on what what the base strata for what that peat in New Zealand is, which I would love to know. I'm going to have to go back and watch that video or ask Jesse. But that is certainly there on this spirit.
So like second and third sip, I start getting that sweetness that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. And I get what you're saying with those sugar cream pies now, because the top of them, when they bake them, turn into like almost like a burnt caramel.
Yeah.
Like an overcooked caramel. And I get that now.
This is going to sound weird too, but it's almost ashy. And when I say ashy, I'm thinking like not cigarette ashtray, but like cigar ashtray. Somebody smoked a really good cigar, and the smell of the ashtray is left behind.
Something deep, dark, and kind of nutty almost.
Man, yeah, that's excellent. I mean, that wouldn't be to everybody's thing, but certainly I would drink that. I suspect that I would pay for it substantially the next day.
Yeah, and so what
you like the Hawaii 5-0 music in the background because the dog opened the door?
Right. I know Jesse likes pot still, and he likes funk, and I think he's held on to a lot of stuff that other distilleries or other distillers may try to cut out because it's funky, and I'm all about it. Yeah,
it's like the dead opposite of my distillations and what I typically try to do, but I think that's why I like it. I think it's interesting, and it's got a lot of texture to it. It's got a lot of weight to it. Mm-hmm. There's even a little rum funkiness on here. Like I've had a few of Turner Wathen's blended rums that he's done, and they have some of that almost. Really, in rum they call it hogo, and that's very much like where this is headed.
Rancid thing.
Yeah.
See, that's a lot of times that's what throws me off of rum, because I don't like that, but it's still light here. It's not overpowering, and that salinity or iodine cheese thing is there. Sorry if you don't like whiskey being called cheese, but that is straight up cheese.
It's there. Yeah, there ain't no doubt about it. Man, you imagine this with like fancy crackers, like Ritz style crackers, but fancy. You know what I mean? Like kind of a drier sort of cracker. That would be fucking great.
Buffalo wings.
Yeah.
That with some wings. You don't even need blue cheese.
Jesse, you need to label this and call it fucking 10W40, buddy.
Absolutely.
Because it is fucking heavy. Wow. All right, man. We'll take a break again real quick, and we will switch up spirits and come back to it. Okay, so I vaguely remember seeing Jesse's video for this as well. There are videos for all these spirits if you want to check out the Still It YouTube channel, where you can see Jesse make all these and talk about them. So he wanted to make an apple pie, but he didn't want to do an apple pie like everybody does it. Just, cutting half liquor and half apple juice that's flavored with various botanicals, etc. Mm-hmm. So I don't remember the exact details, but I know he actually distilled out a lot of the stuff, and then I think he added some juice or even potentially aged it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's certainly not a standard apple pie like what you're going to get from Old Smoky or somewhere like that, right? So this is kind of Jesse's take on it. We've had something similar to that before on the show with Wayne Herbert of Ozark Stillworks, who did something very much like that, which Justin and I both really enjoyed a lot. So I'm curious to see what this one's got going on for it, for sure.
So I'll say we poured this 30 seconds prior to starting recording, and it has changed drastically since it was poured. But also, with the first one we tried, that was very, very light on the nose, I am somewhat afraid because this is very light on the nose, and I'm not afraid because I don't think I'm going to like it. I think I'm going to enjoy it very much because it's light on the nose, and I got a feeling that Jesse's going to pack a punch on the palate.
So when we first poured this and we smelled it, I didn't get anything off of it, and now, like you said, that it sets, I'm getting a ton of apple and a ton of baking spices off of it.
It's almost buttery on the nose also.
Yeah. Like a buttered baked apple is literally what it smells like, or eat like fried apples,
like fried apple fritter almost.
Yeah, fuck yeah. It's going to be delicious. That's going to be the problem.
Fat kid tasting nose.
You know what's crazy, though? It smells a lot like there's a product, you'll see this in Calvados and
fuck your face. That's good, sorry.
You'll see Calvados in Calvados territory, Normandy, northern France. They make what's called pommeau, which is basically a really complex apple juice / cider that they don't ferment, and then they actually fortify that cider with fresh brandy and then mature it, and it has a nose real similar to that.
So palate wise, on a lot of the apple pie stuff that you get, whether it is something that's distilled, like something that Old Smoky does, or something that, like Alan was saying earlier, to where you fortify a juice or whatever, right? This, you even get like the apple peel and the little bit of bitterness that you get behind the peel. And
you get that sour apple note too. You get the sweet apple first on the very tip of the tongue, and then halfway down the palate, you get like a sour apple, bright sour apple note.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come off as a fake apple at all. It comes off as an actual bright apple. Like, that's really fucking good.
Like, if you put this in front of Ray Charles, he thought Mama baked a pie. Man, that's good.
There's some darkness to it too, almost like a powderiness or a chalkiness at the beginning. It almost comes off as like a cocoa sort of characteristic.
That may be what I'm picking up is like that bitter thing from the peel. Then that chalky, what have you.
It ain't even the right time of the year, but I desperately want to make eggnog with this.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'd be all about that. Dude.
I know you and your eggnog.
I love fucking eggnog.
I haven't found one that I like.
Listen, you just talked about fermenting eggs and fucking putting them on spaghetti, and you're making faces at me about eggnog and fucking sugar pie.
I think it's a texture thing. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm drinking loogies. But that's...
Take that chode.
The whole chode. All 2.5
Gross. Gross. This went south quick.
It did. It usually does around the third drink. That's where we're at. So
I'm gonna have to go back and see how Jesse did this, because this is really good, and I think that it's not a sweet apple pie like you're gonna get again at the big moonshine distilleries. Or my thing is right in the way of your face.
That's okay. I make weird faces.
Anyways, so it's not that, but all the elements of that are there, including the perceived sweetness, even though it's not sugar. It doesn't have that going for it. I think you could switch this out for any apple pie out there, and I think anybody that tasted it and didn't like it just wouldn't know what the hell they're talking about, honestly. I also haven't picked up on any distillation faults on any of this.
No, there's nothing crazy to it as far as, like you said, faults. Could you imagine doing like a split cocktail with this and that first peated whiskey?
Yeah, that would be cool. Might have to save that for a bonus. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this one up. We're going to come back, and we've got Jesse's 1700 style absinthe that we're going to jump into still yet. So hang around.
Oh my Lord.
Press the record button on the computer.
Record.
Go. All right, we're back again with what was supposed to be 4 and 15, which I'm pretty sure is now 4 and like 25 or some shit.
We're doing better than normal.
Yes, we are doing better than normal. I'm not nearly as drunk as we normally are either, but we hadn't been drinking all day, so.
That's true.
And I suspect our metabolism's up a little bit from that fucking 15-mile fucking hike through the middle of fucking nowhere.
I will walk 500 miles.
And then I would walk 500 more. So this is a really special spirit. So Jesse and I hooked up because, I've been following Jesse at Stillet for a very long time. Look, I got the hiccups already. I'm fucking over here dying. Anyways, we actually hooked up originally because Jesse was getting interested in absinthe, and he had done some botanical spirits, and I'd commented on several posts about, I think he did like a botanical rum or something, and I brought up to him that, you know, at one point in time after the ban on absinthe, that there were absinthe distillers from France and Switzerland that actually moved to the Caribbean, particularly Cuba, and then also South America, and started making rum-based absinthe. And I think that kind of got Jesse's wheels turning about making absinthe. And then, you know, I've always said that absinthe, real absinthe, true absinthe, and nothing against what we make at work at Spirits of French Lick. It's a very light style absinthe that we make there because the palate in Southern Indiana, 1 out of 20 people would like a real absinthe in Southern Indiana. Anyways, the long and short of it is I've always considered absinthe to sort of be the master thesis that a distiller does when they get to a point where they really want to test their skills with balancing different flavors together, plus their fermentation skills for the base alcohol, as well as their distilling skills for, you know, a stripping run, a doubling run, and then a finishing run with those botanicals. So Jesse and I have been working on this project through Stillet, both with his podcast and also the channel, where Jesse is recreating, based off of my notes and my input, a 1700 style absinthe associated with the Henriade sisters and Duplay as well as Dr. Ordinaire, and then a more Belle Epoque Verde style absinthe, which is what he's working on now, and then a later Swiss style Blanche or Le Bleu style absinthe, which is a white absinthe that became very prominent post-ban, because in Switzerland, absinthe was such a part of the culture, basically, that even though it was illegal to produce absinthe, they weren't going to stop. This was like people that grew tobacco here in the Ohio Valley. They weren't going to stop even if it was made illegal. But, you know, if you're not making it green, the police just look at you if you're carrying a bottle of liquor down the street and it's a clear absinthe. They don't know that it's absinthe. They might think it's brandy or sugar beet based or whatever. So we've gone through the long history of absinthe with Jesse. We've gone through a lot of historical recipes, etc. And this is Jesse's first attempt. This is kind of a mid 1700s up to about 1770 absinthe, to the best of Jesse's abilities with the ingredients that he's able to get in New Zealand, because he wasn't able to get some of the ingredients in as prime of condition as what they potentially could have been. So there is a little leeway allowed in that distillation, because you have to work with what you have access to. But what we did is we discussed what would one of the early absinthes look like. So the first phase of absinthe was really tincturing, based on wormwood based wines, herbal elixirs from basically these, honestly, for lack of any better word, these hedge witches. It's this sort of tradition of old school herbal witchery that went on in the Swiss Alps for medicinal reasons. And the Henriade sisters were making a tinctured absinthe. And I do have one of those that you should try at some point too, Justin. From one of the Henriade descendants, Kate Henriade Jall. But anyways, that would have been an entirely different product than what was distilled. This would have been something similar to when absinthe started to get slightly industrialized at a place that was called basically Le Hotel Black Eagle, which is also where I got the Golden Eagle idea from.
Okay.
So, but that was really the first commercial distilling site for absinthe. This is going to be very heavy on wormwood, very, very heavy on wormwood. We're talking upwards of 100 to 150 grams per gallon of wormwood. The anise gets pulled back. It becomes more like 150 to 200 grams per gallon of anise and fennel. So this is much more in that tradition of old school bitter medicine kind of thing, right? An aperitif, digestif, something you might give someone if they're sick to their stomach to sort of help settle their stomach, etc. But also completely drinkable and enjoyable as a spirit of its own accord. I don't remember what Jesse's proof on this was as a neat spirit, but I suspect probably in the 140s. I know that the base he did, because the traditional base for absinthe would have been brandy at that time, but Jesse did make the oat and raisin neutral with sugar that I make for my absinthe whenever I do that on the side, which is a good way to imitate great brandy. For those of you who aren't familiar with that, you can find it on the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute channel, as well as Jesse's channel, and then also in I think it's in the Black Forest Method Alchemist Cabinet book, Volume 2, that we just published. It's available at thealchemistcabinet.com. All right, that was very long-winded.
It's okay.
I think I got it out of my system. So let's do our first impressions here on the nose. We're going to do this neat, which I do not advise you to drink absinthe neat. It's stupid to drink absinthe neat.
I'll do it.
It's like Jägermeister for pros when you do it neat. I'm just saying. I mean, if you really want to wake up in a city alley naked with a sore asshole.
Condom wrappers all around.
Right. Just filth, and I don't know what happened, but I bet I had a good time.
Someone had a good time.
That's right. You drank absinthe neat.
Yeah, let's not drink absinthe. We're going to take a sip.
We're going to take a sip of it neat, and then we're going to loosh it down and see what we got here. So on the nose, to me, that wormwood, and this is going to be a weird fat kid tasting note. So to me, wormwood, and I don't know what causes it. I don't know exactly what compound is in this particular condiment that I'm about to talk about. Wormwood, to me, has a similar, like, savory nose as, like, A1 steak sauce.
I could see that.
Yeah. And to me, that immediately jumps out. And then right behind that is that licorice root, which is round, earthy, almost stevia-like. And then right behind that is the anise.
Or see, anise is way back there on that.
Yeah, the anise is there more as almost like a when you smell this, what happens is, because it's more of a medicinal spirit, this actually triggers a part of your brain that's different than anything else that you drink. So the botanicals in here actually trigger a part of the brain that's associated with food and not drink. That anise is there to sort of, a little bit of sugar makes the medicine go down, right? And it's there to get your brain to go, this probably ain't going to be that bad, right? I love absinthe. I love anise. I do like more herbal forward absinthes that have a lot more wormwood and bitterness. And I love floral sort of compounds. So like jasmine, marigold, those sorts of things. But this on the nose,
now
beautiful.
So you said that A1 thing that kind of made me think. So like A1 to me is vinegar and au jus. And this is like fatty au jus,
yes.
on the nose. Because like there's a body to the nose, which is freaking me out. It's weird.
Wait until you get that on your palate and see how much of that, not raisin, grape. If you didn't know any better, you'd think that was fucking brandy based. And again, that is one of those tricks of distillation is a sugar shine with oats and raisins as a base for an absinthe.
And I know you said you were thinking this is 140. That doesn't drink 140.
No.
That is a whole lot of fuck you up bad.
Yeah.
Is what that is. And it tastes amazing. And probably shouldn't talk about this on the podcast, but I have no other way of saying what it is other tthan just flat out saying it. So, high school and college years.
This is going south quick, guys.
If you would hit a certain...
Did you wake up in an alleyway naked?
No. I probably could have very easily. Smoke a pot, hit a pipe, that resin that hits, like right at the back of the tongue. There's almost that bitterness there, and I'm assuming that's the wormwood, but there's also like a mint character there.
Yep, because there is mint in here as well. Absolutely, peppermint is in here. And I think there's grains of paradise in there, which is where that kind of black peppery, but clean black pepper is coming across.
Earthy black pepper without the heat.
Yes, exactly. So let's try to louche this. And I know I just finished a podcast with Jesse a couple weeks ago, and I don't think it's out yet, for the next set of videos, and we did a tasting on there. It doesn't louche real heavy.
Okay.
And I think that has a lot, and I say that so that you don't overlouche it. I think that has a lot to do with, the anise is pulled back. The anethol is a big part of what actually causes the louche or the milkiness in absinthe. But I also suspect that because Jesse didn't necessarily have access to all of the best quality botanicals being in New Zealand, and with all their phytosanitary stuff with their government, that he probably wasn't able to get some of the botanicals with some of those heavier oil compounds that he might have needed otherwise. And we discussed that the way that you would fix that. Part of it would be obviously when you do Belle Epoque style absinthe, which he's doing now, is that you weigh up the anise content, because by the 1860s, the anise becomes very, very popular. The other part is that you use a lot more licorice root, because licorice root gives a lot of oil, and a lot of the Belle Epoque distillers weren't even adding licorice root to their distillate. They were actually making a separate distillation of licorice root as sort of an extract to add to it.
And then doing that kind of on the back end as a blending thing.
So I don't know. I'll hold this up on video and see. I don't know if the lighting in here sucks, and we'll see. It's starting to squint a little bit there. And it doesn't go real heavy, like I said, but...
So while Alan's louching his down, I'd already louched mine down. I got impatient. I will say I like the nose a whole lot more, and I didn't dislike the nose prior, but I like the nose a whole lot more after louching it down. Super floral.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. See, to me, that brings the wormwood forward a lot more. And like I said, it doesn't louche real heavy, but I think on the next one Jesse does, you're going to see that increase substantially. It actually makes the anise, the wormwood, the lemon balm, and the licorice root all come together as one component.
Yeah. And it's not you're not picking it up at separate intervals. It's like you said, a one component, almost like you've made a dessert or something like that with those ingredients, because they're all very well rounded. Now, palate wise, that pepper hits right on the nose. The pepper was there before, but it's much more prominent now. But it's not a heat. It's just like a horseradish or wasabi. Like you get that first bam kick, and then it's gone.
Mm-hmm. It's still very savory. I would also say it's on the edge of that umami characteristic.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be one that I think, if Jesse were able to get those fresher botanicals, I think it would be much more aromatic.
Yeah.
But I do think that this one would like tonic water or even a little bit of ginger ale would be super interesting as a highball.
Yeah. That umami thing is where you say umami, I always describe as like a fatty thickness.
Fennel comes much more forward, loose down too.
It does.
A lot.
It does. That is damn good.
Yeah. That is an excellent first try, Jesse, for absinthe, for sure. There are people out there who are making absinthe right now, and I'm not going to name any names, but they don't ever get anywhere close to this at all. So you did a fine job with that. Absolutely. Yep. So good job, man. Good job. I can't wait to taste the next one and the Swiss Le Bleu as well. All right, man. We got this. We where we need to be?
Where we need to be. I'm still loving the absinthe. So
okay. Well, tell people where they can find your non-existent podcast that you stopped recording.
I haven't stopped. We're recording today. You can find my. I haven't stopped.
Okay, fair enough.
So you can find my podcast essentially everywhere you can find podcasts except for Apple because they are being douche canoes. Still Learning. You can search that. Also on Facebook, Still Learning, or you can find my personal profile, Justin Whaley, and you should be able to find me at Spirits of French Lick as well.
Okay, so you can find Justin and I both at spiritsoffrenchlick.com. Also, if you are interested in the paranormal, you can check out my podcast. If you have ghosts, you have everything. If you're interested in distillation, you can, of course, check out the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. Both those are available only via transistor radio. If you have questions, you can use Morse code or a carrier pigeon. And maybe I'll get back to you if I feel like it. Now, you can check out both those. Obviously, One Piece at a Time on YouTube, and the If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything, wherever you get your podcast. And Distiller's Talk with Christy Atkinson, also wherever you get your podcasts. So, hope you guys enjoyed the show, and it's a pleasure as always. We're going to go eat and be fat now.
Be jolly.